I'm a storyteller. I do love films, and no matter what kind of project I'm doing, if it's like a short form or long form, commercial, no matter what it is, I always think about every set and space as a character itself.
Hi, welcome to Director's Notes. In fact,
Thank you.
say welcome back because
Yeah,
featured loads on the pages, just not directly. So it's lovely to have you here today.
thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Good. So, why don't you just introduce yourself and sort of give us a bit of a background on your role and everything?
Well, my name is Julia, and I come from Northern Europe, from Latvia. I was born in there, and then I moved out, I think already like a decade ago. That's where I met my husband, Andzej, who's also a director, and longtime collaborator. So I got into the industry basically because of him, and we started building sets together. It was, I think, 16 years ago, and we were really like trying to build our own kind of like a film school. We went through everything together, and I learned a lot about production aspect, sort of like completely everything from like producing to light to cinematography to production design. And production design specifically sticked with me. So when we moved out of Latvia, because it was just so small, and it felt um a bit suffocating in a way that we wanted to grow, like bigger, and we wanted to try so many new things, and it just was not like it wasn't enough, so we moved out, and I just got so excited about the production design, so it stuck with me, and we started traveling places, and we would like shoot projects somewhere, and then we would stay in that place, and that's how we basically gained international experience. And at some point I started working with other people, and my reel grew, and the range also expanded from like music videos to commercials to short films to proof of concepts, and now feature films as well. And I think at this point I worked almost on all continents, I would say, and in so many countries. And I feel comfortable right now working like everywhere from, LA to Bulgaria to Georgia to Canada to, like pretty much everywhere. And I'm very happy because this industry kind of opened up in a way that I was not expecting, that you can find friends and like-minded people no matter where you go. And it's so fascinating that sometimes you feel very lonely because you're so like, you're away from everyone and from your loved ones and from family. But then you arrive in this like completely new place, and then you find people that share the same values and that understand the struggles, and you can, connect so quickly because you're from this industry. You understand, the issues and anxiety and sometimes overwhelming feelings that come with, dealing with like production and everything. And it's kind of interesting that I was never thinking that this industry would offer me so much, so much friendship and so much comfort as well.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And then you sort of see worlds expanding
Yeah.
and different opportunities. And so I was looking at your website and going through your different pieces of work. And I know you've done a lot, obviously, with Andzej, who's been on the site.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know what it is for you when you read a script. What brings you in? What makes you think that this is the right project for you?
I'm a storyteller. I do love films, and no matter what kind of project I'm doing, if it's like a short form or long form, commercial, no matter what it is, I always think about every set and space as a character itself. If it makes sense, I just start to, analyze and think about the details and what this space tells us from the perspective of, storytelling and being a character on its own. So that kind of drives me a lot, in a sense that, there's a actor, and this actor is doing, his job, and I'm there to, support this actor, an artist, in a sense that the place needs to be an extension of this character. So what drives me is the, I guess, curiosity and always something new, no matter like how many, kitchens or living rooms or different spaces or, or offices or, workspaces, no matter how many I would do, they would always be different because they would be an extension of different personalities. So I always feel fascinated about details and storytelling, and layering all these different things that you might discover while watching the work, like for the fifth, sixth, or 10th time. And this is something that I really love. And yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah.
For me.
And your role on set, because you work with everyone, don't you?
Yeah.
It's with
Yeah.
the director, the cinematographer, the art department.
Yes.
How do you balance all of those roles and sort of sit within the production?
Mm-hmm. Well, I usually like to get involved at the very early stage, when the director scout, or just in general, the scout was not even done yet, because I really like to talk to director first before I take the project on.
Yeah.
And then whenever there's a location scout, I get, involved in the base, because this is what I would work with. Apart from the situations, of course, when it's a set build in a studio, that's when it's completely different, because I develop everything from the ground up, and I can control the color palette, control all the textures, control everything. But with the location scout and real locations, there's a base that we need to respect, no matter what we want to do with it and how we want to transform it. And if we want to just like do a dressing of the space, or build some sort of extensions or change it also architecturally, I still need to respect the space and what it gives me as a base. But this is really when the color palette plays a big role, because all the colors you see, and DOP is gonna come on set, and he's gonna, or she's gonna, point the camera in every direction, and everything that we're gonna see in a frame is gonna be brought by me. It's a production design, so I really get super nerdy and very involved at the early stage with colors and textures and everything, just to make sure that no matter how we frame, on which lens, and what sort of character is wearing, because I also talk and work closely with the costume department. This is all going to be, on frame. This is what you're going to see, and that's going to be the design of the whole production. So I really take my job super seriously, and I'm very nerdy to this point that no matter what it is, if it's like a short film, because sometimes I do like 1 minute films, when we work on a narrative commercials, or it's like a short film, I still, pour my whole heart and soul into every project, because I truly like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I just really like to get involved in the early stage and talk to everyone, about the light and textures and colors, and, present my vision and do concept arts. And I build pretty detailed PD boards where I bring all the references and moods and detailed description of, props. And that helps a lot for everyone to understand how the space is going to look like. And it also helps a lot for my department, because they need to be briefed very strictly, because it's very important. It needs to be curated, and it needs to be very well thought. So I do like to, build big decks and do concept arts, and just like work with everyone.
Yeah. And you said that you like to speak to the director first.
Yeah.
What does that conversation look like? What are you looking to get out of that?
I guess a little bit of a backstory behind the characters. That always is something that I'm looking for, because I need to have a little bit of that to be able to bounce off ideas and then develop further. So it's always good when director is giving, something, and, his or her vision, so I can, develop further. And it's always good to just like talk and see how we can connect, and what basically are the ideas and why director is doing this certain film. So it's more about, just like connection on a spiritual level, I guess. And then also a bit of a background story that I would love always to get before I start on the project.
Yeah. And I saw on your website when I was having a look, these amazing like visual boards. So when you're
Yeah,
preparing for a project, so what's your process? So you've signed on to a role,
yeah,
you know what the project is going to do. How do you then develop all of these? Because there's so much you have to think about. How do you develop
yeah.
it all?
It really depends on the project and specific space. If it needs to be designed from the ground up and we're doing something on stage, then I would definitely start with just like thinking about the architectural geometry of the space and what it needs to give us in terms of the script. If I know that, there should be like a separation between something or somewhat and how, it's written in a sense of the framing, I would start to think first about the architecture in general. If it's a real space that we need to rework and its locations, then I would start to think about the character of the space first, because there's already base and I really need to think about, populating and making it alive and real and shootable for us, and authentic, so there's like authenticity in all aspects of the location.
Yeah.
And I always start with that. And then from there, I just go into details, into colors, sometimes color palette. I kind of build it together. And then last minute, I might change some colors and see maybe it works better if I would bring like the background and foreground into like a different, sense of shades. And I think whenever I'm done with my concept art and sketches, then I would start, building a deck with like notes and references, because it's easier for me to, I think, first envision the space and then, find appropriate references and moods to kind of build it together. So
Okay.
I would, yeah, that would be probably the process. But then the most fun part comes afterwards when you travel to these beautiful countries, and cities, and then you just actually trying to find something that is on the ground. And most of the times, I stick very closely to the developed, PD board and sketches. But sometimes you find something very unique and beautiful, something that you would not even think about. And then, of course, it's always so exciting to like find a place to feature it and integrate it. And yeah, just like let it be a bit fluid and have a room a bit for this improvisation, I would say.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, because like you said, you could be somewhere and see something that's just totally unique to that country,
Yeah,
to that story.
yeah.
So I'd love to know, what are your feelings, which like between something that you have to build on and then a set that's on site? I mean,
Hmm.
how do you work differently between those two?
With the set that is on site, and I'm redecorating, I'm redressing, and I'm bringing like these layers. um I don't really have to work this much about bringing textures, only like through props, obviously, but then the base usually has a very good lived in texture itself. But then when you build stuff from the ground up, you really need to think about aging and patinating everything and making it really real and as authentic as possible. Of course, there are different styles. Sometimes you're like hired to make a a set that is very like stylized, and feels very clean and very like specific. So there's that. But in general, if we talk about like realism and authenticity
Hmm.
of the spaces, when you're building, you really need to like spend a lot of time and thought and process how to age everything that you just freshly built to look like it's 25 years old.
Yeah.
And this is something that not, I think, from my just personal observation, that not a lot of people, put a lot of thought into that, because um, just because it takes a lot of time, and effort. And sometimes you're like on a schedule, on a deadline. You have like 1 week to build, 10 days to build. And sometimes you're building every day. And then you actually ideally would need to have at least a few days to like properly age it. I was just on a project in Warsaw, and we spent literally 2 days just aging windows and doors to make it look like they have like these 50 layers of paint.
Yeah.
Whenever you get into the space or apartment, and you look at these doors, and they have these brush strokes, and you can feel that already like 30 or 40 families like were repainting these doors because they were faded. And whenever you build the set, you don't really like have luxury to spend this time and to make these spaces lived in. But I actually really like to spend time doing that to make it look like as authentic as possible, and pay attention to details, because that's when it gets really real, and
And
believable.
the audience definitely noticed those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure.
And and thinking about that, I'm just looking at my windows. I live in a really old flat, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
painted like hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you make it look old?
I hire scenic department, scenic painters. They usually are the ones who are very well trained in like bringing textures and aging things. And usually you just set up like very long table, you print the references out, you do some samples for like aging, scratching, staining, burning things, and like all kinds of ideas that you can bring into the space, and then you just like put them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my last project, I think we were aging everything, the whole set, and I had like hundreds of references for like different scratches and stains for the floor. Because there's like so many ways how you can do it. You can have the scratches that naturally appear from like opening the door when the door is like too tight to the floor, and it's like would leave the scratches on the floor, or something might break or fall, or a cigarette, or like whatever, and then you have like burn marks. And there's just like so many ways to really explore how to age the set you're building, and it's always fascinating because you just bring these layers and layers and layers, and there's really the sky's the limit.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I'm always fascinated in finding out how many roles there are, like in film and in
Yeah.
cinema. And knowing now that there's somebody who is specifically trained to paint,
Yeah.
to age them, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, it's
really is.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful and talented people in our department, and it's just like so exciting to always meet them and
Yeah.
create together. Yeah, it's just like it's really exciting. Whenever there's a set build, I just leave on stage, and I never go to the office. Just spend all the time in there and work with my team very closely. And it's really interesting how you can plan your time on a project, and you just go either research props, or you research materials, or then you just like stay there and you supervise the build, or then you just paint and you age and then you decorate. It's just like so many aspects, and it's really amazing to see how it's being created from nothing to everything.
Yeah.
Then, of course, it's very, very sad to see it all like, getting demolished and like
And then it all
so
gets
quickly.
destroyed.
Yeah,
But
because
it
they're
lives on
basically
forever in the
building. Yeah,
film.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's the aspect of our work. We can't really do much about it.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk about sort of a more specific film now. And
Yeah.
you were involved in the production design for The Last Swim, Sasha Nathwani.
Yes.
So I saw that film last year at London Film Festival and fell in love with it. And I was lucky enough to interview him about it. And I was just today rewatching like the trailer and some of the scenes and checking my
Mm-hmm.
interview with him. And what he created, well, what all of you created is just, it's every teenager's experience of that incredible moment of freedom, but obviously Zeba's
Mm-hmm.
dealing with so much more. And you spoke
Yeah.
earlier about sort of colors and color palettes. And for me, in Last Swim, that's something that's so evocative of like a British summertime.
Yeah.
Kind of like the burnt grass, everything's a bit hazy. So I'd love to know, first of all, how you got involved in that and planning for a lot of the film and that real teenage adolescence feel.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sasha, he reached out to me directly. I think I was recommended by someone to him. And I think also he saw my talk. I was doing like a talk as a speaker at the festival in Berlin. And I was doing like a breakdown of my PD board and concept art, and like details and everything. And I think he mentioned that he was like really fascinated about the background and how much thought I put into developing my PD boards.
Yeah.
So we jumped on a call and I read his script, and it was such an easy read for me. I'm a very slow reader, and sometimes I need like eternity to finish the script. I just get spaced out so quickly, and then I need to come back and read it again. And just in general, I read very slowly, but that script, it was such an easy read for me and I really enjoyed it. And I always wanted to do a coming of age drama.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with the script, with the idea, with characters. And it also was so interesting that it was like set in London. And I was the only one from the crew who was not like, from London. So I flew there to prep. I am quite familiar with London and I used to live there, and now I'm sort of like in between. But it was very interesting because I think I had quite a fresh look on everything, and I was so just fascinated with spaces and characters and stories. And we spoke very early on about the colors and the specific meanings of the colors, because Ziba, main character, she is Iranian, and her space, her house where she lives with her mother, it was a very specific, and it was supposed to be characterized like it's like kind of blending of British Iranian mix. So we spoke about the significance of green color uh, to Persian culture, and significance also of red color for the culture, and white. And I always knew that the space would be like very, very green. And then of course I would like juxtapose red against it, because red would be very, very important. It would symbolize bravery, for Persian people in their culture. And also it was very important, bold color choice, just to kind of keep on inserting in different spaces, because it would like, symbolize anger and love, and also bravery of certain elements. That's why I brought in red color in the space where Malcolm was living in his like council house, because that scene was like so intense. His fight between his mom, and that space felt very, very like, red, and it was like screaming, anger as well. And just in general, when we were like outside, I couldn't do like much, obviously, when there were like streets or like nature, but we always tried to put a bit of like color splashes here and there for like certain props, where I was chatting closely to Natalie, who was a costume designer on a project, to bring it through the wardrobe as well. Or we would just see like, there would be a scene at the lake where they are sitting and having conversation, Ziba and Malcolm, and then at the background I would like, put poppy flowers into the grass, just like, so they're there, and there's like a splash of red color. So yeah, color wise it was very interesting and very layered, and it was like a very conscious decision to just like, make sure that these colors, they're there. And I was not even like overwhelming Sasha a lot about, colors as we started going into the prep, because he had like a million things to think about. And I would just like take on the show and make sure that, we are there, and that it's like, the color palette is respected. And there's enough also for colorists to work with on a grade, because everything we see in the shot, I'm like responsible for together with the costume department. So yeah, that was very, very interesting. I already forgot what you asked me. just like
No, no,
talking so
no,
much.
no,
Sorry.
no, it's beautiful. You've been talking all about it. And it's that wonderful way, like you in a way have a strange power to use color to subconsciously affect what we're watching.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. I mean, through the colors that you've chosen,
Hmm.
that's the mood that we're that
Yeah, I
must be
really like colors.
fascinating to dig into. Yeah. Yeah. And you said you were interested in working on a coming of age drama. Why was that
Yes.
something you wanted to focus on?
Um, I just think that it's always interesting how we all, like we mature and we celebrate birthdays and we grow, we turn into adults, but then we have all these versions of our previous, lives in us. Even now I'm like 34 years old and I still have the 12-year-old and 14-year-old and 18-year-old version inside of me. That's why sometimes I might do something stupid or say something stupid. And I think it's like so interesting, just to work, with teenagers and how, dramatic certain situations or feelings might be, and how, how strongly we feel when we're like, in that age, and how we take everything so seriously. So it just felt very interesting and exciting, almost like you're reliving your own teenagehood, again. So I
Yeah.
really wanted to do that, and I wanted to do it in a big city because I grew up like in a very, very small town, and I always wanted to break free, and I wanted to go and be surrounded by this like big opportunities. So it felt very, very exciting to do it in London. um yeah, so I really wanted to do it, and I'm very happy that my debut feature is coming coming of age.
Yeah. And I think there's something so special about summer in London and in the UK because
Yeah,
we don't have much sun, we don't have much of that. But when we do, everyone in the country is out and we embrace it. And
yeah,
it's definitely a different feel in the air. And Last Swim captures that so perfectly.
yeah. I remember we had a conversation with Sasha from the very beginning. He was telling to everyone and producers especially that I don't want this to be a gray British film. I want it to be exciting and colorful, and I want it to be joyful,
Yeah.
and it needs to feel like this best day of the summer that you get in London when everything is perfect and you're just out and the weather is amazing. And that's exactly how we wanted to portray it. And it was definitely challenging because, the weather in London could be unpredictable,
Yeah.
but it was it was great. We were like bouncing between interiors and exteriors, and yeah, making sure that colors are always juicy and they're in there, so we have, this feeling everywhere, of
Yeah.
this joy and saturation of color and vibrancy.
Yeah, yeah, it's all of that, and all of that comes through. And I was just sat there watching it, and the festival was in October, and it was gross and rainy, and I was like, oh, I need
Hmm.
my soul needed this. So now I'd like to talk about some of the short films you've worked on, and particularly Foreign Route, which we just featured on Direct.
Hmm.
Um, it's a heartbreaking film. I mean, it's all about, you're talking about migration and
Hmm.
humans. And for those who haven't watched it, it's on the site, but this bus just becomes this central base for everybody. So I'd love to know about your approach to that and how,
Hmm.
because you've got so many people from so many different backgrounds, there's so much there.
Yeah. So when my husband Andzej, who's also a director and a writer of this film, when he was 18, he went from Latvia to UK on a bus, and I think he spent roughly 50 something hours on that bus, and that's how he decided to write this short film, just based on that idea and the feeling of just taking whatever he had close to his heart and going to another country to make money. At that point, he wanted to, make money to buy his first like professional camera, to start shooting. And he told me that he saw so many people leaving their homes and just going because there was like a crisis and lack of work. In Europe back then, it was in 2000, I don't remember what, 2008, I think. So this bus sort of became a character itself, a representation of all these people blended together in the space. And we did want it to look a bit exaggerated and very, symbolic in a sense that you're mixing different cultures. And that's how, the background would become almost like a foreground together with these characters blending together with their private things and things that would be close to their heart that they would bring with them, and really wanted to feel that people are like united, and it's it's heartbreaking, but it's also joyful in a way that they're kind to each other and they support each other. And that's how these scenes, with like them sharing bread, sharing food, sharing teas, came to life. And it was just beautiful to, see all these characters and actors doing such a great job, and then thinking what could be the things that they would bring along themselves on such a, sensitive ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I guess we just come up with the bus itself as a character, and how it, evolved and developed into something beautiful, a character itself, a space itself, yeah, it was quite exciting.
Because it's one whole character, but it's got everyone. There was one moment where I think there's a woman and she's there in like beautiful African fabric,
Yeah.
and her baby's crying, and then another woman who's got a lovely headscarf
Hmm.
on, like goes over to her, and it's just it's gorgeous. It truly is gorgeous. And I just think, yeah, knowing now how into detail you are, that must be so meticulously planned.
It was planned, yeah, but it was very exciting as well. We were shooting in Georgia, and so many, great people in their department were involved, and we would research props, and we would see whatever is available in their country, and we would just, bring all these beautiful Georgian textiles and carpets and small things, and we would develop it into something really beautiful.
Yeah. So I want to ask you now, because so we've spoken about sort of your background, a bit of feature film, a short film. You've worked over commercial, short films, feature films. Do you have a preferred format to work in?
Uh, I think I prefer to work on a narrative, no matter what it is, short or long form, because I really enjoy whenever there's like a storytelling and I need to, help actors to, do their job within the space, within, the place that they're acting. So I do prefer to work on a narrative, for sure. But I do like my job so much that a lot of people are asking me about it quite often, and I could never like pick something, specifically, because I just really enjoy the process, and I always have something that I'm having fun with, no matter how quick is the project or if it's long and what kind of prep we're doing. I truly always find things that bring me joy and that are just fascinating for me. And there's always something new that I discover in every project. So I just care a lot, and it doesn't matter what I do. I always do it like with all the heart.
Yeah. And I guess there's a commonality between the projects as well. Whatever they're working on,
Hmm.
the role is still sort of the same throughout.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's similar. No matter what you do, you would still prep as if you're doing it for a long haul, even if it's like short format. But the feature films, of course, they feel different, and this is something that I really would like to um to focus on, in the future, um, because it's just from the script, to the actual screen. It takes like a while. It's a long process, and you become very close with people that you work with. And then, seeing the film being like released, and it's available like in theaters, on online platforms in any way, it kind of has this like longevity feeling to it, that you're doing it and then it's there and you see it, and it's still going to be there. It's a bit different when you're doing like narrative, commercial work, because it's only like for a short haul. It's never going to be, it's never going to have this longevity, because just the way the industry is built, the ads are like, they're going around so fast, and there's always something new, which is exciting in a different sense, that you're always working on something new and you're always trying new things. And one day you're building like crazy spaceship for like certain commercial, and then next day you're building something else. It's great. But with the feature films, there's just this longevity and storytelling, that you're actually bringing a story to life, and then whenever it's done, it's still there, and you can watch it, and you can rewatch it again and again, and people might rewatch it, hopefully. So yeah, it's just like, it's a different feeling, I guess.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I mean, the variation in all that. You're never going to be bored doing what you do.
Yeah.
And I mean, a question as well. So this is quite a big one, but it's one that people talk about in the industry, with obviously the rise of technology and
Yeah.
AI and all of these different aspects. How have you seen that affect or influence your job? And how do you feel about it personally?
I don't use AI, and whenever I'm on a project, I strongly strongly stand with the statement of not using AI. Whenever there is graphics that need to be fabricated, or something, I make sure that my team is not using AI as well. I think it's a good tool, and for certain things you might use it. But I just my personal, I guess, feeling about it, that it's not different for me than any other program, like a Photoshop, or anything that I would use in my work, just in order to make something happen. I would sometimes use it for correcting sort of like mistakes when I'm writing something, because I do write descriptions as well for my PD boards. And sometimes whenever I write long text, I really need like a pass on the grammar and everything. But I don't really use it for anything else, because well, first of all, I have a lot of ideas in my head that I just really struggle with putting on paper and putting together, and I don't really need any other extra ideas, because I already have like so many myself. And as a tool, I mean, sometimes it's okay, but then I also use so many different tools. There's like Canva, which is amazing for building decks, and I can always use Photoshop, and I can use Procreate. I have so many apps on my iPad that I travel with. So I mean, it's just another tool. Some people use it more, some people use it less, but I personally just don't see how I can like utilize, and I'm very happy that some people are not utilizing it, because I just don't think that it should replace, human intelligence, for
No,
sure.
no, no, that's terrifying. I don't want it to. I don't want to see that. And I think, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I think of it, and that's how people should. It is just a tool.
Yeah.
That's it. And if you
Mm-hmm.
learn how to use it properly, that's great. But a lot of
Yeah.
the time, like I'm scared of it. I'm like, you're a tool, but also you lied to me, and I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I always find it interesting talking to people in their different
Mm-hmm.
roles, because it's there and it's not going away. So it's
Yeah.
how you adapt as well in
Mm-hmm.
your profession. Okay, so my final question for you. I feel we've spoken about so much, and thank you. What are you working on next? What are you excited about?
I read quite a few feature film scripts this year, and I'm currently in conversation about two potential films, and I'm really trying to lock something that I would really resonate with. Because I had such a joyful experience working with Sasha on his debut feature, and I really wanna, do the next one that would feel also very dear and close to my heart.
Yeah.
Because I don't see the point of doing a long form if it doesn't really resonate with, with me, or I don't resonate with the story, or it just doesn't make sense, to make this film. The film needs to be beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to just, get together with so many people and work like for many, many months. So it does need to feel special. So, yeah, I'm currently in conversations about these two special films that hopefully are going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm just doing, more commercial work with people that I'm friends with in just, life. And I really like working with friends, and I always discover new people, and then I would expand my friendship. And, yeah, that's currently what I have in, I would say, production design. And I also started doing finally the pottery. I'm trying to get into all kinds of things. So I started doing ceramics, and yeah, just like I really like the feeling of learning new things and new craft. Earlier this year, I had a few down days between projects, and I started doing knitting. It was just so random. And I don't know why. I know why. I was passing a very nice small shop, and there were so many beautiful yarns, and they were so fluffy and so cute, and the colors were like so beautiful, and it was like artisanal yarn. The people would like dye it with their hands. And I was like, oh, that's very cool. Maybe I can like, learn it, because my grandma was a very good knitter, and I
Yeah.
would never like learn anything from her. And now I started to get into it myself, and I just feel it very like peaceful and grounding, that sometimes, on your like down day, you would like sit and you would knit.
Mm.
So yeah, I felt a feeling that my grandma was like, she was right about everything, after all, that this is the best thing that you can do. Like sit in the nature net and like look at the horizon and look at the cows or horses running. It's like very nice.
They were right all along.
Yeah.
I was never able to learn. So my granny used to knit, but I'm left-handed
Mhm.
and she was right-handed.
Yeah.
Whenever she tried to teach me, she got all confused. And then I
Yeah.
got confused. So I never learned. But yeah, and I know it's something a lot of people took up in lockdown and things like that.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's a catharsis, kind of soothing.
Yeah. It's very nice. And it just feels great to do something with your hands. That's why I got into ceramics. I got into knitting. I just want to, learn all kinds of skills. It's just because, not because I have like, ambitions to start my own brand or like sell knitwear. It's like, I definitely don't think about it. But it's just something that kind of keeps your mind, like constantly your brain activity, floating, that just you're learning new skills all the time, and you're trying something with your hands. Because as a designer, I always like do something digitally. I design, I go to these places. I have so many people in my department, like, hundreds of people. We build and we create, but it's never like really tactile. I never like, take hammer and just go there and do it myself, because, I am HOD. And
Yeah,
that's why I guess I just started to get into these like small tactile things, because I really want to take things with my hands. I just want to do something. So yeah, but it's exciting.
good. No, that makes sense. I can totally understand that and sort of wanting that process.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much as well. It was really interesting.